U.S. futures under pressure after President Donald Trump announces 10% tariff on 8 European countries for opposing U.S. control of Greenland. European Union warns of downward spiral and is also set to halt U.S. trade deal over Trump's new tariff threat. Asian markets open lower, tracking developments around tariff tensions between the United States and European Union nations. GIFT Nifty suggesting a gap down start for the Indian markets. Gold and silver notch a record high on Trump tariff threats over the issues with the European Union. So keep an eye out on that. And World Economic Forum annual summit gets underway in Davos. All eyes are on U.S. President Donald Trump, who will be leading the largest ever delegation at the World Economic Forum. Even as escalations between trading partners across the globe continue, World Economic Forum President and CEO Borges tells CNBC TV18 that Trump might use this platform to direct deal-making with global business leaders, and the focus of his address will be growth of the economy. And Reliance Industry reports a strong December quarter. Consolidated profit and revenue sees an uptick led by digital, O2C and digital segments. EBITDA hits a 7-quarter high. Chairman and MD Mukesh Ambani says FY26 reflects consistent financial delivery and operational resilience across the businesses. Banking major HDFC Bank reports a good set of Q3 numbers in line with street estimates. Profit sees an 11% uptick while the asset quality remains stable. On the other hand, ICICI Bank's net profit falls short of estimates as RBI directs bank to make a standard asset provision of 1,283 crore rupees. The board approves reappointment of Sandeep Bakshi as the MD and CEO for another 2 years. Hello, good morning. You've tuned in to CNBC TV18. You're watching Power Breakfast with me, Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in as always, but a lot of updates that have come in over the weekend. We have a lot of commentary that came in from Trump, European Union. The tension seems to be increasing there on the tariff front, the Greenland issue. And because of that, let's look at what the Asian markets are doing this morning. Asian markets have opened up in the red. All of them, most of the indices on the Asian market front are trading in the red. Look at the Hang Seng, that's down almost 1%. We have Taiwan index, that's down 0.05%. Apart from that, also, whether you look at the Japanese index, 1.5% decline as of now. We have the ASX 200, that's the Australian index, that's also down. Do not forget, we're watching out for key data. Even on the China front, we'll have data points coming in, so watch out for that as well. But overall, today, we have seen pressure coming in on the Asian markets. And because of that, look at the GIFT Nifty, the suggestion that is coming in there as well. We have GIFT Nifty that is indicating a gap down start for the Indian markets. 172 points decline as of now is what the GIFT Nifty is indicating. Do not forget, Friday was a bit of a muted day in terms of slight bit of a gain, but last week also was not anything exciting given the uncertainty that we've seen. So keep an eye out on the Nifty implied open. But that's the Asian market for you all right now. How is all the important cues that have come in overnight, the earnings that have come in over the weekend as well? We have a team of research who's joining us to set you up for trade, tell you which are the important stocks to watch out for in the trading session as well. Good morning, everyone. First up, I'll start with Vivek, who's going to take us through the market setup for today, important cues that we're keeping an eye out on. Good morning, Vivek.
Well, good morning. You know, the market, at least this Monday morning, doesn't appear to have taken too many positive cues over the weekend. U.S. market, like you mentioned, ended marginally lower. Oil prices gained on Friday. Now Brent hovering around the $64 a barrel mark. Markets last week, you know, both the Nifty and the sensex managed to end the week on a flat basis. Broader markets marginally outperformed, but they managed to snap a 2-week losing streak. Especially when you're looking at the markets on Friday, gave up most of the gains on the second half, anticipation of an earnings-heavy weekend, and that is something that the street will keep an eye out on. The first number, of course, that the whole street will be looking at is Reliance Industries. You know, Jio outperform expectations, strong ARPU growth, but the Nifty Bank will remain in focus. So many banking results that came in over the weekend: HDFC Bank, ICICI, RBL Bank, Yes Bank, IDBI. A lot of these names will react to their results, and you will see sharp moves on the Bank Nifty today as well. From the IT pack, Wipro as well as Tech Mahindra came out with their results. Tech Mahindra outperformed, while Wipro guidance is something that the street really didn't like, and JSW Infra 2 will react on the back of the fact that there was slight trimming as far as volume growth guidance is concerned. On the other hand, quite a few stocks that will remain in focus on the back of results today. Havells, BHEL, IRCTC among the key gainers, and like you mentioned, GIFT Nifty indicating a sharp gap down open for our markets today.
Thanks so much for that, Vivek. On that note, let's move on and now talk about the important stocks also that one should be keeping on their radar. Upasana is here to take us through that. Good morning, Upasana.
Good morning, Vinny. Well, it looks like a result-heavy day. Firstly, let me start with Reliance Industries. So, strong set of numbers here. Revenue up 4% sequentially. EBITDA at a 7-quarter high. HDFC Bank reported stable set of numbers. NII up 6.4%. Net profit up 11.5%. ICICI Bank negative read-through on numbers. NII up 6.5% and net profit is up nearly about 11.5%. Now, RBL Bank also reported a weak set of numbers. The NII grew by 5% and PAT is now at 214 crore versus the expectation of 260 crore. So it's a miss on that front. Wipro revenue and margin in line with street estimates. IT revenue up 3.3% and EBIT margin at 17.6% versus 16.7% sequentially. Tech MCC revenue growth at 1.7% versus the poll of 0.6% and margins stood at 13.1% with an uptick of 100 basis points. JSW Infra reported inline set of numbers. Revenue saw a growth of 14% and margins stood at 47.7% versus 49.6%. Now, CG Power also in focus as the company wins 900 crore power transformation order from Tallgrass for a US data center project. Engineers India gets an order for nearly 3,200 crore from Dagonte Group for refinery expansion. And lastly, coming to RVNL, it has emerged as a L1 bidder for 87 crore video surveillance project from Southeastern Railway. So all in all, we'll be watching out for all these stocks in today's trading session.
Thank you so much for that, Upasana. Let's move on and get the final update in what we should watch out for our trade setup. Sudarshan is here from the FNO desk to tell us the cues in the world of FNO. Good morning, Sudarshan.
Good morning, Vinny. So we are not seeing or we are not expecting a strong start to the week thanks to the Trump's tariff tantrum and the mixed set of earnings from the heavyweights like HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, as well as Reliance Industries. And on the back of that, you can see GIFT Nifty is indicating a gap down start. But I won't be surprised if there is a buying. If we go by the GIFT Nifty's indication, if Nifty opens below 25,500, because the range for Nifty remains from 25,500 to 26,000, and that I'll explain you in the option data. As far as FI's positioning is concerned, we have seen buying in both index futures as well as stock futures. Also, they've added long positions, reduced short positions, and now longs exposure has seen a minor increase to 9% on the short side, while they remain heavily shorted, but it has seen a minor dip to 91%. Now come to the options data. On the call side, the biggest active options were 25,900 and 25,800. On the put side, the most active options remain 25,600 and 25,500. So it indicates you that it's very difficult for Nifty to slip below 25,500 immediately. Now support 25,473, that's the recent low we had hit on January 12. Resistance 25,960, that's the 50-day moving average. Financials remain on a strong footing. Support will remain around 59,500 for Nifty Bank, and resistance would be around record high of 60,437. Two stocks remain in the bank, Sale and Sammaan Capital. Some of the stocks keep an eye on. Wipro guidance was weak. RBL Bank credit cost has increased, and lastly, commentary was very strong for Polycab.
Okay, Sudarshan, thank you so much for that. But let's talk about Reliance Industries Q3 FY26 numbers. How was it overall? Sonal is joining in with us for that update. Good morning, Sonal.
Good morning, Winnie. Well, Reliance reported numbers on Friday. The consolidated revenues came in at 2.65 lakh crore rupees. EBITDA at 46,018 crore rupees, which was higher both on a quarter-on-quarter and on a YOY basis. This number was at a 7-quarter high. The operating profit margins at 17.4% and profits came in higher as well at 18,645 crore rupees. The EBITDA trend will come for you. The number is at a 7-quarter high for the quarter gone by, and it was largely led by their auto chemicals business. That is where their EBITDA came in at 16,507 crore rupees higher, both on a quarter-on-quarter and on a YOY basis because of strong refining cracks. Reliance Retail grew 8.4% on a YOY basis due to demerger of Reliance Consumer Products, festive season, and GST cuts that came by as well. Jio average revenue per user, that was up 5% on a YOY basis, 1% on a sequential basis. And if we talk about the oil and gas business, that continued to be weak. That's why there was lower production, lower deep water gas prices as well. And that's why their EBITDA fell both YOY and on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Company in the conference call indicated that Jio IPO is imminent and the process is ongoing. So that will be the next trigger going forward for Reliance Industries. In terms of brokerage views, Jeffrey says they've cut retail EBITDA by 2% each for the next two fiscals on the prevailing weakness. However, a tariff hike in Jio and recovery of retail growth to mid-teens, they are the reasons for to deliver a double-digit consolidated EBITDA growth in FY27. They maintain a buy rating with a target price of 17.95. Nuvama says 3 new vectors of growth from here on: new energy rolling out, AI investments, and the 20 gigawatt power plant for green hydrogen production. Street will be watching out for that. They also retain a buy with a target price of 1,808 rupees a share. Now, do remember the stock has already declined almost 8% in the last 1 month. So a lot of it is priced in. So the stock will be on our radar today on the back of these numbers.
Okay, Sonal, thank you so much for that. But we also have two banks, important banks actually. Well, there were many banks which reported numbers, but two important ones, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, that reported the numbers. Gaurav is here to give us those details.
Well, first let's talk about HDFC Bank, and the reason being that if you look at the results, those are more or less in line with the street's expectation. In fact, if you look at profit, that was higher than the street's expectation. But let me take you through some of the key points for this result. First is that net interest margins that increased almost by 11 basis points, which was actually positive because street is expecting 6 to 7 basis points of increase in this quarter. Second is that if you look at the credit cost, now the calculated credit cost comes at just 40 basis points versus what it was at 50 basis points just a quarter ago. And the reason being that in this quarter specifically, bank released provisions worth 1,040 crores, which were related to a borrower group, which fulfilled certain conditions. And that is the reason why credit cost declined. At the same time, if you look at the LDR ratio, that was a key concern when they announced their pre-quarterly numbers. But now management said that by the end of fourth quarter of FY26, they will bring down LDR almost to 95%. And by FY27, they will bring down to low 90s. So that is something that the comfort management has given. But on the negative side, we have seen Mr. Bhavesh Zaveri, who is executive director. He has requested for not seeking reappointment, and at the same time, bank also reported around 500 crores worth of additional provisions because of the agri loans, which was actually asked by the regulator. Apart from that, let's also talk about ICICI Bank. Now, when it comes to numbers, ICICI Bank actually disappointed with profit numbers because it was 4% below street's expectation. And the main reason being that in this quarter, RBI asked bank to provide more than 1,200 crores for the agri slippages and agri loans once again. And this was basically because of the regulatory requirement. And the bank said that this was because they did not meet certain regulatory criteria, and that is the reason why if you look at credit cost, that inched up almost to 74 basis points versus what it was estimated to be 50 basis points. But on the opposite side, on the positive side, we saw Mr. Sandeep Bakshi, who will be reappointed as MD and CEO for the next 2 years. So that is positive for ICICI Bank. So for both the banks, we saw a mixed set of numbers. So it is really important to see how the street reacts on these numbers today.
Okay, Gaurav, thank you so much for that. But on that note, we're actually going to slip into a very short break. After the break, we'll come back, get you all the developments from the White House. Stay tuned in. Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Now let's talk about the latest Trump-related developments that we have. And that's a special segment, Trump Watch. Starting with the latest update, President Trump now has escalated trade tensions with the key NATO allies in Europe by imposing a 10% tariff on imports from 8 of these nations. Which are these nations? Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, UK, Netherlands and Finland, starting February 1st. Now, on Truth Social, what Trump also said, and the ties this directly, to ongoing U.S. interest in Greenland and acquiring Greenland is something that he is warned about, warning that the rate will jump to 25% by June 1st unless a deal materializes. This is very unusual, given that normally when you have your partners, long-standing partners, you do not impose such tariffs. Now, this indicates a bit of a friction that's going on between these European unions as well as in terms of the United States. Now, in response to Trump's decision, more than half a dozen of European countries warned in a joint statement on Sunday that the tariff threats over Greenland undermine the relations that they have as the White House seeks to pressure allies into a deal to acquire Greenland. So that's a bit of a concern there. Now, moving on to the latest update on the Iran front. President Donald Trump called for an end to the Iran's leader, which is a 37-year reign that they have been having. And it's time to look for a new leadership, is what he said in Iran. And this is to an interview, he said, in Politico. As, widespread protests are going on, he's calling for an end for this regime. Moving on to the last update also that we have, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has received an invitation to join Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza, which is a part of the second phase of his plan aimed at ending the war in the region. The ambitious international body aims to guide the reconstruction and the governance for Gaza in a better way following the fragile ceasefire that halted more than 2 years of conflict between Israel as well as Hamas. But that's the last that we have in terms of Trump-related update. On that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. We'll get you all the coverage straight from Davos 2026. Stay tuned in after the break. From the sidelines of the Davos summit at World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum's president and CEO spoke to CNBC Shireen Bhan on US President Donald Trump's visit to Davos this year, which is expected to be the largest ever US delegation, and what will be the key focus area of that visit. Listen in.
President Trump making an appearance the third time in the World Economic Forum. Was it a hard sell to get him back to Davos?
I think already last year he was virtually with us because it was 2 days after the inauguration. And I did say to him then, we wish you back in Davos in 2026 physically. And then we started the dialogue just after Davos. And I think he was keen to come. And what he's saying to us is that he likes it because he also meets a lot of business people here. There's like 850 of the leading CEOs of the world here. And he does like to make deals and speak to business.
And he's coming with the largest ever delegation of U.S. government officials.
That's true. He's coming with 5 secretaries, Secretary of State Rubio, also Treasury Secretary Bessent. But, you know, it's true that the U.S. delegation is large, but we also have overall historic numbers. We have probably 6 out of 7 G7 leaders here. So on Monday and Tuesday, especially, we will start off with Ursula von der Leyen. We'll also have the Chinese Vice Premier, we have President Macron, and also then Prime Minister Mark from Canada, just coming back from a visit with Xi Jinping in China.
Let me ask you, what should we expect from President Trump? Do you have any indications on the issues that he is keen to talk about?
So what we've heard so far is that during his speech at 2:30 on Wednesday, he will speak about the economy in general, what creates growth, but also he will speak about the middle class in the U.S. and how he wants to strengthen the middle class also in this context of affordability challenges. And then we also know that he will meet with a lot of state leaders that are here. I think on Thursday we can expect more a focus maybe on the Middle East and Ukraine. But things.
So he is going to be meeting with President Zelensky?
You already asked that, and I said I maybe. The White House has to answer that question. And things are much in flux here. Things are changing very fast. So at the World Economic Forum, we also have to be agile as an organization.
And he's here for 24 hours.
Yeah, even more maybe.
Okay, that's the latest update there coming in from Davos 2026. That's going on. We'll bring you all more updates as well. But a quick check in terms of what the Asian markets are doing so far. Continues to be in the red, most of them. Kospi is something that's trading in the green right now. We have Kospi that's holding on to gains of 0.9%. Taiwan index that was a bit in the red now has flipped to the green. Mild gains there, so very muted yet. Hang Seng is still holding on to cuts of 0.8%. Nikkei is down more than 1% as well. Shanghai is up 0.5% now. So keep an eye out on that. Nifty implied open is indicating a gapped out start for the Indian markets, even as of now, down 157 points, but we started it with down 172 points, so at least 20 points up from where we started the show. Still a gapped out start of a decline of 150 points is what we're keeping an eye out on. But that's all the time we have on Power Breakfast today. Up next, your Bazaar Morning Call.